Jai pressed her fingers against the holographic display, watching the star systems rotate in the air before her. The map showed thousands of worlds, each one connected by thin lines representing trade routes and travel paths. She had spent 5 years studying these maps, memorizing every detail, but there was something wrong, something that nobody seemed to notice. At the edge of the map, where human territory began, everything simply stopped. No stars, no systems, just empty space marked with 2 words: uncharted territory. It doesn't make sense, she whispered to herself. Jihi worked at the Central Cartography Institute on Valar Prime, the capital world of the Valar Republic. Every day, ships arrived from distant parts of the galaxy, bringing updated maps and survey data. Every day, those maps matched perfectly with what they already had. Except for one area. She pulled up 17 different maps from 17 different species, the Krellian Empire's charts, the Zethian Confederacy's surveys, even the ancient Mordak archives. All of them showed the same blank space at the human border. The exact same blank space. Jihi calculated the probability, the chance of 17 independent civilizations all failing to map the exact same region. The numbers were impossible. 1 in billions. This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate. She needed to talk to someone who might have answers. Gateway Station orbited a neutral moon between Valar space and human territory. It was the only place where humans and other species met regularly. Jihi had been there before, attending boring diplomatic conferences. But this time she had a purpose. The station's main hall was full of different species. Tall Krellians with their 6 arms, small furry Zethians chattering in groups, and humans. So many humans. Jihi found the human ambassador standing near a window looking out at the stars. His name was Taehyun, and he had been stationed here for 8 years. He was young for an ambassador, maybe 40 years old. He always smiled. He was always polite, but there was something in his eyes that made Jihi uncomfortable. "Ambassador Taehyun," she said, approaching him. "May I ask you something?" He turned, and that smile appeared. "Of course, Navigator Jihi. I always enjoy our conversations. Why are there no maps of human space?" She asked the question directly, watching his face. The smile didn't change. "Our territory is accurately represented in all official charts." "No," Jihi said. "It's blank. Every map from every civilization shows nothing beyond your borders." The same nothing. Exactly the same. Taehyun was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Perhaps some mysteries are kindnesses." "What does that mean?" "It means," he said gently, "that not all questions should be answered." He paused, then added, "But if you insist on looking, you might not like what you find." Before Jihi could respond, Taehyun walked away, disappearing into the crowd. She stood there, feeling cold despite the station's comfortable temperature. 2 days later, Jihi met Minho in a small cafe on Valar Prime. Minho worked for military intelligence, analyzing threat patterns and security risks. They had been friends since university. "I need your help," Jihi said, sliding a data chip across the table. "I want to know what happened to the exploration ships." Minho picked up the chip. "What exploration ships?" "The ones that went into human space, before first contact was formalized. I found references in old records. 7 ships. All of them crossed the boundary. None of them came back." Minho's expression changed. He looked around the cafe, making sure no one was listening. "That information is classified. You knew about this?" "I found something during a routine analysis last year," Minho said quietly. 7 ships. 7 disappearances. But here's the strange part. They didn't send distress signals. They didn't report any danger. The transmissions just stopped. All at once, what did your investigation conclude? It was shut down. My supervisor told me to forget about it. He said it was a diplomatic matter, not a security concern. Minho leaned forward. But I didn't forget. I kept digging, quietly. "What did you find?" Minho pulled out his personal tablet and showed her a file.
Myths, ancient stories from dozens of species.
They all talk about something called the Devourers or the Endless Hunger, creatures that hunted civilizations across the stars. Jihi read through the stories. They were old, some of them thousands of years old, but they all described the same thing: massive, incomprehensible entities that fed on entire worlds. Species after species had recorded encounters, always ending in extinction or near extinction. These are just legends, she said. Maybe, Minho said. But here's the interesting part. All these myths stopped being recorded about 75 years ago. They just vanished from cultural memory. And do you know what else happened 75 years ago? Jihi felt her stomach tighten. First contact with humans. Exactly, they sat in silence for a while. Around them, people talked and laughed, unaware of the conversation happening at the corner table. We need to cross the boundary, Jihi said finally. We need to see what's really there. That's illegal without human permission. Then we'll get permission. Or we'll go without it. Minho looked at her for a long moment. You understand this could end our careers? I understand that everyone in this galaxy believes humans are primitive, weak, new to space travel. But what if that's all a lie? What if they're hiding something? Before they could plan further, Jihi's communicator buzzed. It was a message from Taehyun. Just 4 words. Please don't do this. She showed the message to Minho. His face went pale. How did he know we're meeting? Minho whispered. Another message arrived. This one was longer. Humans aren't hiding from you. We're hiding you from something else. Some secrets exist to protect, not to deceive. Trust us, please. Jihi stared at the words. She thought about the blank maps, the disappeared ships, the forgotten myths, and Taehyun's strange, sad smile. We're going, she said firmly. Whatever they're hiding, whatever they're protecting us from, we have a right to know. Minho nodded slowly. I'll start preparing. But Jihi, he hesitated. What if the ambassador is telling the truth? What if there really is something out there, something we're better off not knowing about? Jihi looked out the window at the stars above Valar Prime. Somewhere out there, beyond the blank space on the maps, humans were hiding something. Something big enough to make them pretend to be weak. Something that made them watch the borders with quiet, constant vigilance. Then we need to know, she said, because ignorance won't protect us forever. 3 weeks later, they secured funding for a deep space research expedition. The Valar Science Council approved it without asking too many questions. They assembled a small crew, 5 people who could be trusted. The ship was called the Pathfinder. It was fast, well-equipped, and small enough to slip past detection. Or so they hoped. On the night before departure, Jihi received one final message from Taehyun. No words this time. Just coordinates and a simple warning symbol. She deleted the message without responding. The next morning, the Pathfinder left Valar Prime, heading toward the boundary. Toward the blank space on the maps. Toward whatever humans had been hiding for 75 years. Jihi stood on the bridge watching the stars streak past. In 2 days they would cross the line. In 2 days they would finally learn the truth. She just hoped they would survive long enough to tell anyone about it. The transmission went out to every human ship, every human station, every human soldier across known space. It was not a normal military order. It was something deeper, something that bypassed normal chains of command and reached into the core programming that every human carried. On the destroyer EDS Indomitable, Commander Park Seojin was on routine patrol near the Outer Rim. He was 38 years old, a veteran who had seen combat before. When the Protocol Apex authorization came through his comm system, he stopped moving. For 3 full seconds, he just stood there on his bridge. Then he turned to his crew. Everyone to battle stations. Navigation. Plot a course to New Jeju system. Maximum speed. His tactical officer looked confused. Sir, we haven't received orders to... We don't have orders, Park Seojin said. His voice was flat. Empty of emotion. We have targets. Now plot the course. The tactical officer looked at his commander's face and immediately started working. Something in Park Seojin's eyes had changed. They looked colder, harder, like looking at a machine instead of a person. Back at the council station, the sensors showed something strange. Every human on the station was showing the same biological signs. Increased heart rate, higher adrenaline, dilated pupils. But it was not panic. It was not fear. The patterns were too controlled, too uniform. Counselor Vexthar studied the readings. This is unusual. They are all experiencing the same physiological response simultaneously. How is this possible? Lieutenant Dane looked at him. Her face showed no expression. It's called Protocol Apex. It's what happens when you threaten human families. I do not understand, Vexithar said. What exactly is activating in your species? Our hunting instincts, Dane replied. Every human has them. We usually keep them controlled, buried under civilization and laws. But when our people are dying and no one will help, we stop being civilized. Ambassador Kreenel approached Captain Taman carefully. She kept her distance like approaching a dangerous animal. Taman, I have studied human history. I know what your species is capable of when threatened. Please think carefully about what you are doing. Taman looked at her. We did think carefully. For 3 weeks, we asked politely. We followed your procedures. We waited for your committees. And while we waited, the Vrelak kept coming. He paused. We're done waiting. On New Jeju, Sergeant Lee Minho was hiding in the ruins of a residential building. He was 26 years old, a special operations soldier who had been on the planet when the Vrelak attacked. Around him, 15 civilians huddled in fear. They were the survivors he had managed to find. The Vrelak creatures moved through the streets outside. They were insect-like things, each the size of a large dog with too many legs and mouths that dripped acid. They hunted in groups, following scent trails to find any remaining humans. Minho's comm unit beeped softly. The Protocol Apex authorization appeared on his screen. He read it once, then he looked at the civilians. Stay here, he said quietly. Don't make any noise. I'll be back. An older woman grabbed his arm. Where are you going? We need to hide. We need to stay quiet until rescue comes. Minho looked at her. His eyes had changed. They were cold and focused. I'm not hiding anymore, he said. I'm going hunting. He picked up his rifle and checked his ammunition. Then he walked out into the street. The Vrelak creatures were 50 meters away, moving through the rubble. They hadn't seen him yet. Minho didn't run. He didn't hide. He simply raised his rifle and started shooting. Controlled bursts, aimed shots. 3 creatures fell before the others even realized they were under attack. The remaining Vrelak turned and charged at him. Minho stood his ground. He killed 2 more before they got close. Then he switched to his knife. The fight was brutal and fast. When it ended, Minho was covered in their blood and his own, but all the creatures were dead. He walked back to the civilians. They stared at him in shock. The old woman who had grabbed his arm before looked terrified. Not of the Vrelak anymore. Of him, what did you do? She whispered. I stopped running, Minho said, and I started hunting. In Earth's military command center, Dr. Yoon Ji-won was analyzing Vrelak biology. She was 31 years old, a xenobiologist who had been studying the Vrelak for 2 years. She knew more about them than almost anyone else in human space. When Protocol Apex was activated, she received a direct call from Admiral Choi. Dr. Yoon, I need you to tell me how to kill them efficiently. Yoon looked at her research data. Their hive mind structure has weaknesses. If we can disrupt the communication between individuals and their queens, they become confused, disorganized. We could exploit that. How do we disrupt it? Choi asked. Yoon pulled up a diagram. We can hack into their neural network and create feedback loops. It would cause them to attack each other. The pain would be extreme. Against any other species, this would be considered torture, a war crime. Admiral Choi's face showed no emotion. The Vrelak are not protected by any treaty. They don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They just consume. Do it, Doctor. Make them suffer. Yoon nodded. Her hands were completely steady as she began programming the attack. She felt nothing. No guilt, no hesitation. Protocol Apex had activated in her too, even though she was a civilian. The instinct to protect her species overrode everything else. Back in the council chamber, Observer Thelquan was assigned to monitor human activities. He was a crystalline species, his body made of living minerals that reflected light in beautiful patterns. His species had no concept of violence. They reproduced by division and fed on sunlight. The idea of hunting and killing was completely foreign to them. He watched the biosignature data from human forces. Hi, Speaker, he said in his musical voice. Something is wrong. The humans are not behaving normally. Their brain activity shows patterns I have never seen before. What kind of patterns? Ornlatus asked. Predatory focus, Thelquan said. Every human in the military is showing the same brain state. It is the state that carnivorous species show when they are hunting prey. But this is not individual hunting. This is coordinated, synchronized, as if they are all part of one large predator. Ambassador Kreenel spoke quietly. That is exactly what they are. Humans evolved as pack hunters. On Earth, they were the most dangerous species on their planet. Not because they were the strongest or fastest, but because they hunted in groups. They coordinated. They planned. They never stopped chasing their prey until it was dead. But they are civilized now, Vexthar said. They have laws and culture, and civilization is a choice, Kreenal interrupted. Evolution is permanent. You can choose to be civilized when you feel safe. But when your family is threatened, when your children are dying, evolution takes over. That is what Protocol Apex does. It removes the choice to be civilized. The first human ships began arriving in the new Jeju system. Commander Park Seojan's destroyer was among them. His sensors immediately detected Vrelak bioships in orbit around the planet. There were dozens of them, large organic vessels that pulsed with life. His tactical officer counted them. Sir, we're outnumbered 6-1. Should we wait for reinforcements? Park Seojan looked at his screen. His face was expressionless. No, we attack now. Full weapons free. Target their command ships first. Sir, that's suicide. We can't. I gave you an order, Park Seojan said. His voice was completely flat. Execute it! The destroyer accelerated toward the Vrelak fleet. Other human ships were arriving now, appearing from different vectors. They didn't coordinate through normal communications. They didn't need to. Every commander was thinking the same way, targeting the same weaknesses, moving with the same purpose. The Vrelak detected the human ships and moved to intercept. They were confident. They outnumbered the humans significantly. They had destroyed hundreds of species before. These humans would be no different. They were wrong. The human ships attacked with a ferocity that shocked the Council observers. There were no warnings, no offers to negotiate, just immediate brutal violence. Commander Park Seojan watched his weapons officer work. The young man's face was completely focused, calm. He was not angry or scared. He was simply doing his job with perfect efficiency. This was what Protocol Apex created. Not mindless rage, not wild violence, just cold, calculated, efficient killing. The hunt had begun. The space around New Jeju filled with fire and death. Commander Park Seojan's destroyer moved through the Vrelak fleet like a shark among smaller fish. His ship took damage. Shields flickered and failed. Hull breaches opened on 3 decks. He did not retreat. The Vrelak bioships tried to surround him. They were organic creatures, grown rather than built. Each one was controlled by a sub-queen, a smaller version of the hive intelligence. They coordinated their attacks perfectly through their mental link, but the human ships coordinated too. Not through a hive mind. Through something else. Through shared instinct and centuries of pack-hunting evolution. They moved like wolves, isolating individual Vrelak ships and destroying them one by one. Park Seojan disabled a Vrelak cruiser's propulsion systems. The bioship drifted helplessly, still alive but unable to move. His tactical officer expected him to finish it quickly. Instead, Park Seojan did something that made the Council observers watch in horror. He began broadcasting the wounded ship's distress pheromones on all frequencies. The injured Vrelak ship was screaming for help in its chemical language, and Park Seojan was amplifying that scream across the entire system. More Vrelak ships responded. They came to rescue their wounded companion. Park Seojan waited. He let them get close, let them begin their rescue operations. Then he destroyed them all at once. His weapons officer looked pale. Sir, that was cruel. Park Seojan looked at him with empty eyes. That was efficient. We killed 5 ships instead of 1. The Vrelak don't understand mercy. They only understand eating and being eaten. So we'll teach them what it means to be prey. On the planet's surface, Major Kang Sora's Marines had landed. She was 34 years old, a commander who had never lost a battle. Her face was hard and her orders were clear. Find the nests. Burn everything. Sergeant Lee Minho joined her unit. He had been on the planet for days, hiding and surviving. Now he was not hiding anymore. He led them to the Vrelak breeding grounds. The nest was deep underground in what used to be the colony's water treatment facility. Thousands of Vrelak larvae writhed in organic pods. They were young, not yet dangerous. Some were barely developed. One of the Marines hesitated. Major, these are juveniles. They can't fight. They're Vrelak, Kang Sora said flatly. In 2 weeks they'll be killing colonists. Burn it all. The Marines used flamethrowers. The nest burned hot and fast. The smell was terrible. None of the Marines showed emotion. They just did their jobs. Protocol Apex had removed their hesitation, had removed their doubt. Minho watched the flames. A year ago, this would have bothered him. He would have felt guilt. Now he felt nothing, just a cold satisfaction that the threat was being eliminated. At the Council Observatory, Observer Thelquan was recording everything. His crystalline body pulsed with distressed colors. "High Speaker, the humans are not following any rules of engagement. They are targeting breeding grounds. They are using psychological warfare. They are refusing to accept surrender. The Vralak have not attempted to surrender," Councillor Vexthar pointed out. "That is not the point," Thelquan said. His voice was high and musical, filled with distress. "The humans are not fighting to survive. They are fighting to exterminate. There is a difference," Ambassador Kreenal spoke quietly. "The Vralak do not negotiate. They do not coexist. They consume everything they encounter. Perhaps the humans understand something we do not. Perhaps the only way to stop a species like the Vralak is complete elimination." Specialist Bei Jun sat in a darkened room aboard a human command ship. He was 24 years old, an expert in electronic warfare. Dr. Yoon Ji-won had given him his orders. Hack the Vralak hive mind. Weaponize it. It took him 6 hours to break through their neural encryption. The Vralak communicated through a form of quantum entanglement, linking all individuals to their queens. It was elegant. Beautiful, even. And Bei Jun was about to corrupt it completely. He created a feedback loop, a signal that would echo through the hive mind, growing stronger with each repetition. To the Vralak, it would feel like screaming directly into their brains. Pain that they could not escape because it came from inside their own neural network. Dr. Yoon monitored his work from Earth. The feedback will cause confusion and aggression. They will attack anything nearby, including each other. The effect will last approximately 4 hours before they adapt. Admiral Choi approved the plan immediately. 4 hours is enough. Activate it when we have maximum forces in position. We'll kill as many as possible while they're confused. Bei Jun activated the signal. Across New Jeju, Vralak creatures suddenly stopped their coordinated attacks. They began making horrible sounds. High-pitched screaming that echoed through the ruined colony. Then they started attacking each other. Vralak warriors tore into their own nestmates. They bit and clawed and killed anything that moved. The hive mind that made them so dangerous had become their worst enemy. Major Kang Sora watched through her tactical display. "All units advance. Kill everything that's still moving. Don't waste this opportunity." The Marines moved through the chaos. They shot Vralak creatures that were already wounded. They finished off groups that had fought each other to exhaustion. It was not honorable combat. It was simple butchery. One Marine stopped near Sergeant Minho. "This doesn't feel right," he said quietly. "We're killing them while they can't even fight back." Minho looked at the young Marine. "They killed 400,000 colonists, men, women, children. Did that feel right?" He paused. "Protocol Apex means we stop caring about what feels right. We care about what works." In space, Commander Park Seo-jin coordinated with other human ships. The Vralak fleet was breaking apart. The confusion from Bei Jun's neural attack had spread to the bioships as well. They were firing on each other, crashing into asteroids, losing formation. The human ships pressed their advantage. They showed no mercy, no hesitation. Every damaged Vralak ship was destroyed. Every escape pod was targeted. Every life form was eliminated. Park Seo-jin's tactical officer reported casualty estimates. "Sir, we've killed approximately 80% of their forces. The remaining ships are attempting to retreat." "Don't let them leave," Park Seo-jin said. "Chase them down. Kill them all. Sir, some of them are clearly trying to flee. They're not a threat anymore." Park Seo-jin turned to look at his officer. His eyes were cold, dead. "They came here to consume our people, to eat our children. Now you want me to let them go, so they can come back later, so they can attack another colony?" He shook his head slowly. "No, we kill them all. Every single one. That way they can't come back." The human fleet pursued the fleeing Vralak ships. It was not a battle anymore. It was a hunt. The Vralak ran, the humans chased, and one by one every Vralak ship was destroyed. 18 hours after the battle began, it was over. The New Jeju system was clear. Not a single Vralak remained alive. Not in space. Not on the planet. Not hidden in any cave or nest. The humans had been thorough. Major Kang Sora stood in the ruins of the colony. Her armor was covered in blood and ash. Around her, Marines searched for survivors. They found a few, not many. Most of the colonists were dead. A young girl, maybe 10 years old, was pulled from a collapsed building. She was alive but injured. A medic began treating her. The girl looked at Major Kang Sora with wide, frightened eyes. "Are they gone?" the girl whispered. "Are the monsters gone?" Kang Sora knelt down next to her. For the first time in hours, something flickered in her eyes. Something that was not cold efficiency. "Yes," she said quietly. "The monsters are gone. All of them." The girl started crying. Relief and grief mixed together. Kang Sora stayed with her until the medics took her away. Then she stood up and looked at the destroyed colony. At the bodies. At the burning nests. At the complete annihilation they had brought to the Vralak. She felt no guilt. No shame, just a cold certainty that this had been necessary. That protecting the girl in the rubble had required the death of every Vralak creature on the planet. Back at the Council Observatory, High Speaker Orn Lattis watched the final reports. The humans had won, completely and totally. The Vralak force at New Jeju had been exterminated down to the last creature. "They fight like demons," Councillor Brendal said. His voice was quiet, disturbed. Ambassador Kreenal corrected him. "No, demons fight for evil. The humans fight for their families. That makes them something more dangerous than demons." "What could be more dangerous than demons?" Brendal asked. Kreenal looked at the display showing New Jeju. At the complete destruction. At the efficiency of the human victory. "Predators protecting their young," she said quietly. "Nothing in the universe is more dangerous than that." The victory at New Jeju was just the beginning. The Vralak swarm responded with fury. They sent forces to 6 human colonies at once. Millions of Vralak creatures in hundreds of bioships. They expected to overwhelm humanity through sheer numbers. Admiral Choi Hyunwoo looked at the strategic map. 6 colonies under attack. His forces could not defend them all. He had to make a choice. A terrible choice. He gathered his command staff. "We will defend New Seoul and Port Yeager. We will concentrate all available forces on those 2 systems." A junior officer looked confused. "Sir, what about the other 4 colonies? New Busan, Taejin Station, Gwangju 7, and New Daegu. That's over 400,000 civilians." Admiral Choi's face showed no emotion. "New Seoul has 12 million people. Port Yeager has 8 million. We save the most lives by concentrating our forces." He paused. "The other 4 colonies will have to survive on their own." The junior officer looked horrified. "We're abandoning them? Just leaving them to die?" "We're making a strategic decision," Choi said coldly. 400,000 deaths versus 20 million deaths. Do the math. He transmitted new orders. "Send Protocol Apex authorization to all 4 colonies. They will have to defend themselves." On New Busan, the colonists received the message. They were being abandoned. No military support was coming. They were alone against the Vralak swarm. Many panicked, but others felt something else. Something cold and focused. A teenager named Hwang Nari was 16 years old. She lived with her parents on a farming settlement. When the Protocol Apex message arrived, she felt it activate in her mind. Like a switch being flipped. Like something ancient waking up. Her father had been a hunter before they moved to New Busan. He kept his old rifles in a storage shed. Nari went and got them. She checked the ammunition. Her hands were steady. Her mother tried to stop her. "Nari, you're just a child. We should hide. We should—" "I'm 16, Nari said. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Old enough to shoot. Old enough to fight. She looked at her mother with eyes that had gone cold. "The Vralak are coming to kill us. I'm not going to hide and wait for that to happen." Across the 4 abandoned colonies, similar scenes played out. Civilians picked up weapons. Farmers became soldiers. Teachers became guerrilla fighters. Protocol. Apex did not just activate in trained military personnel. It activated in anyone with human DNA. Old instincts buried deep in their genes suddenly came to the surface. Captain Shin Yuna was an intelligence officer. She was 36 years old and had spent years studying the Vralak. She knew their structure better than anyone. She knew that the entire swarm was controlled by hive queens. Killa Queen and all her drones died with her. She presented her findings to Admiral Choi. "We've located 3 hive queens. They're deep in Vralak territory, heavily defended. But if we can kill them, we'll eliminate billions of Vralak drones. How heavily defended? Choi asked. Very. Each queen has a fleet of bioships protecting her. We would lose most of our attacking force. Admiral Choi looked at the tactical displays. Acceptable losses. Authorize the strikes. I want all 3 queens dead within 48 hours. Fleet Admiral Song Ji-ho was 48 years old. He commanded the Second Fleet. When he received orders to strike at a hive queen, he did not hesitate. He assembled a task force of 30 ships and headed into Vrylak territory. The journey took 16 hours. His ships were detected immediately. Vrylak bioships moved to intercept. The fighting was brutal. Song Ji-ho lost 5 ships in the first hour, 10 ships in the second hour, but he did not turn back. His officers asked if they should retreat. Song Ji-ho looked at them with empty eyes. We came here to kill a queen. We're not leaving until she's dead. The task force pushed deeper into enemy territory. More ships fell. The crews fought with desperate efficiency. They were not trying to survive anymore. They were trying to complete their mission. There was a difference. Finally, they reached the Hive Queen's location. She was inside a massive organic structure, a living station grown from biological material. Song Ji-ho's flagship was badly damaged. Shields gone, weapons failing. Hull breached in multiple sections. He had one weapon left, a prototype antimatter warhead, humanity's most powerful weapon. It had never been tested in real combat. Song Ji-ho armed it personally. Sir, if we fire, that at this range, we won't survive the blast, his tactical officer said. I know, Song Ji-ho said calmly. He looked at his remaining crew, young men and women who had followed him into this hell. Evacuation shuttles are ready. Get to them. You have 2 minutes. Most of the crew evacuated, but some stayed. They looked at their admiral and refused to leave. We came here together, one officer said. We'll finish this together. Song Ji-ho felt something in his chest. Pride, sadness, but also cold determination. He nodded once. Then he fired the antimatter warhead. The explosion was massive. The Hive Queen died instantly. So did Song Ji-ho and everyone who stayed on his ship. But 3 billion Vrylak drones connected to that queen also died. Across multiple systems, Vrylak warriors simply stopped functioning. Their hive mind connection was severed. They died standing in place. At the Galactic Council, the observers watched in silence. Counselor Brendal spoke quietly. They are killing themselves to kill their enemies. This is madness. This is war, Captain Han Taemin said. He stood in the gallery, watching the displays. This is what happens when you force a predator species to fight for survival. We don't stop. We don't surrender. We keep fighting until either we're dead or our enemy is dead. There is no middle option. This violates every principle of civilized warfare, Counselor Vexthar said. Taemin looked at him. Civilization is a luxury. When your family is being eaten alive, you don't have time for civilization. You have time for one thing: killing the things that are trying to eat you. On New Busan, young Huang Nari fought alongside other colonists. The Vrylak attacked in waves. The colonists set traps. They ambushed Vrylak patrols. They used improvised weapons and civilian equipment turned deadly. Nari killed her first Vrylak creature from a rooftop. She shot it 3 times before it stopped moving. She expected to feel sick, to feel guilt. Instead, she felt nothing. Just cold focus. Just the need to find the next target. An older man fought next to her. He was maybe 60, a retired teacher. He looked at Nari and saw the emptiness in her eyes. Are you okay? He asked. I'm fine, she said. Her voice was flat. Protocol Apex is active. I don't feel scared anymore. I just feel focused. The teacher understood. He felt it too. The ancient hunting instinct that had kept their species alive for millions of years. It was active now, making them efficient, making them deadly. 2 of the 3 hive queens were dead. Captain Shin Yuna's intelligence network located the 3rd one, the Supreme Hive Queen, the oldest and most powerful. She controlled the largest portion of the Vrylak swarm. She was deep in Vrylak Prime system, protected by thousands of bioships. It would take the combined military power of a dozen council species to reach her. Admiral Choi received the coordinates. He looked at his strategic map. Most of the human fleet was committed to defending colonies. He had maybe 40% of his total forces available. It was not enough, not by any reasonable calculation. But Admiral Choi was not thinking reasonably anymore. Protocol Apex was active in him too. He gathered every available ship, every destroyer, every frigate, every carrier. He pulled ships from patrol routes. He recalled vessels from deep space. He assembled the largest human fleet ever created. His staff protested. "Sir, if we commit everything to this attack and fail, we'll have nothing left to defend our colonies. If we don't kill the Supreme Hive Queen, the Vrelak will never stop coming," Choi said. "They'll attack forever, one colony at a time, slowly consuming us. No, we end this threat permanently. All ships are ordered to Vrelak Prime. We're going to kill their queen. And if we die doing it, at least the Vrelak will die with us." The Galactic Council detected the fleet movements. Every human warship in space was converging on a single point, deep in enemy territory. Ambassador Krenal realized what they intended. "They're going to attack the Supreme Hive Queen," she said quietly. "They're going to try to kill her." High Speaker Orn Lattis looked at the displays in disbelief. "That is impossible. The Vrelak Prime system has defenses that would stop any fleet in the galaxy. The humans cannot possibly—" "They don't care if it's possible," Krenal interrupted. "They only care that it's necessary. That is what makes humans so dangerous. They will attempt the impossible if that's what survival requires." Captain Taman watched the fleet movements on his display. He felt pride, and he felt fear. Because he knew that most of those ships would not return. Most of those crews would die in Vrelak Prime. But they were going anyway. Because that was what Protocol Apex demanded. That was what being human required. The hunt was entering its final phase, and the prey was the Supreme Hive Queen herself. The human fleet entered Vrelak Prime system like a spear thrust into flesh. 300 ships, the largest armada humanity had ever assembled. Against them, thousands of Vrelak bioships waited. The numbers were impossible. The odds were death. Vice Admiral Jang Minseo commanded the vanguard. She was 41 years old and had never retreated from a fight. Her fleet of 80 ships would hit the Vrelak defenses first. Her job was simple: hold their attention, keep them focused on her forces while the main strike team penetrated deeper into the system. It was a suicide mission. Everyone knew it. No one protested. Minseo's flagship accelerated toward the Vrelak fleet. They opened fire immediately. Her ships fired back, space filled with weapons fire and explosions. Ships died on both sides, but many more human ships died than Vrelak. Within 30 minutes, Minseo had lost 20 ships. Within an hour, 40 ships were gone. Her tactical officer reported the losses with a shaking voice. Minseo's face showed nothing. No fear. "No doubt. Maintain position," she ordered. "All ships continue firing. Do not retreat." Her flagship lost shields. Then weapons. Then propulsion. The ship drifted helplessly as Vrelak bioships closed in for the kill. Minseo activated her quantum communicator. She broadcast targeting data for the remaining human fleet. "All ships, mark my position. Fire for effect. Don't worry about friendly fire." Her crew understood what she was ordering. They were to use her ship as bait, to draw in Vrelak ships and then bombard her position. She would die, but she would take many enemies with her. 37 human ships fired on her coordinates simultaneously. The explosion consumed her flagship and every Vrelak bioship nearby. Vice Admiral Jang Minseo died completing her mission. Her sacrifice bought time for the strike team. Commander Park Seojin led that strike team. His destroyer and 5 other ships had slipped through the chaos. They moved deeper into the system, toward the asteroid belt where the Supreme Hive Queen was hiding. Major Kang Sora and her Marines were aboard Park Seojin's ship. Their mission was to reach the Queen's chamber and plant humanity's most terrible weapon, a reality bomb, a device that would destabilize spacetime itself. Engineer Oh Kyung-min had designed the weapon. He was 45 years old and had spent his career developing peaceful technologies. Now his greatest creation was a device meant to kill. He armed it personally, his hands steady. The blast radius will be enormous, he explained to Park Seojin. Anyone within 10,000 kilometers will die instantly. Anyone within 50,000 kilometers will be pulled into the space-time collapse. Park Seojin nodded. How much time will we have to evacuate after planting it? Oh Kyung-min looked at him. The countdown is 15 minutes. But this ship is too damaged to escape in time. Whoever plants this weapon will not survive. There was silence on the bridge. Then Park Seojin spoke calmly. Then we make sure the Queen dies with us. They reached the asteroid where the Supreme Hive Queen lived. It was massive, hollowed out and filled with organic structures. The Queen herself was at the center, a creature so old and vast that she barely resembled the smaller Vrelak anymore. Park Seojin crashed his ship through the asteroid's crust. The hull tore open. Atmosphere vented. Half his crew died in the impact. But the ship made it through. They were inside the Queen's chamber. Major Kang Sora's Marines deployed immediately. They moved through alien corridors filled with Vrelak warrior drones. The fighting was brutal. Hand-to-hand combat in narrow spaces. Marines died, but they kept advancing. Finally, they reached the Queen's chamber. She was enormous, a living mountain of flesh and chitin. Her mind reached out to them through the hive link. Not with words, with feelings, with images. The Queen showed them what the Vrelak were, an ancient species that had consumed countless worlds. She showed them her memories spanning millions of years. She showed them that she was more intelligent than any human, more ancient, more powerful, and then she showed them fear. For the first time in her existence, the Supreme Hive Queen felt fear, because she finally understood what humans were. Not prey, not food, but apex predators like herself. And in this moment, she was the prey. She tried to communicate, tried to offer negotiation, peace, coexistence, anything to survive. Sergeant Lee Minho, now part of Kang Sora's team, received the psychic contact. He saw the Queen's offer, saw images of humans and Vrelak living in separate territories, never interfering with each other again. He remembered New Jeju, remembered the child's scream that had cut through static, remembered 400,000 dead colonists. He looked at the Queen with cold eyes. You should have thought about peace before you attacked us, he said quietly. Then he armed the reality bomb. Major Kang Sora ordered immediate evacuation. Her Marines retreated toward the ship, but Commander Park Seojin's destroyer was too damaged. The engines were dead. Life support was failing. There was no escape. Park Seojin looked at his remaining crew. 20 people. Young officers who had followed him into hell. Evacuation pods are still functional. Get to them now. Most of the crew evacuated, but Major Kang Sora refused. I'm not leaving you here alone, Commander. Park Seojin looked at her. That's an order, Major. She shook her head. Marines don't abandon their commanders. Not while we're still breathing. She sat down next to him in the damaged bridge. Besides, someone needs to make sure the bomb actually detonates. Protocol Apex means we complete the mission. No matter the cost, Park Seojin started to argue. Then he saw her expression, saw the cold determination that matched his own. He nodded once. They sat together watching the countdown timer. 15 minutes. 14. 13. The Supreme Hive Queen screamed. Not with sound, but with psychic force that echoed across the entire system. Every Vrelak creature felt her terror, her rage, her desperate attempt to survive. It did not matter. The countdown continued. Park Seojin looked at Major Kang Sora. Any regrets? She thought for a moment. No, we protected our people. That's all that matters. 5 minutes, 4, 3. The reality bomb detonated. Space-time collapsed into itself, then exploded outward. The Supreme Hive Queen died. So did every Vrelak creature connected to her consciousness. Across the galaxy, billions of Vrelak warriors simply stopped, their neural connections severed. They fell where they stood and did not rise again. The entire Vrelak species went extinct in seconds. Not because of slow decline or natural disaster, but because humans had decided they were too dangerous to exist. The human fleet began withdrawing from Vrelak Prime. They had lost over 60% of their ships, thousands of crew members dead, but their mission was complete. The threat was eliminated. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo received the final report. He sat in silence for a long time. Then he broadcast to all remaining human forces. All ships, this is Admiral Choi, mission accomplished. The Vrelak are extinct. The threat is over. He paused. We paid a terrible price. But we protected our people. We ensured humanity's survival. Come home. At the Galactic Council, the assembled species watched in absolute silence. The displays showed Vrelak creatures across hundreds of worlds simply dying. No struggle, no fight. Just sudden death as their connection to the Supreme Hive Queen was severed. An entire species. Gone. Eliminated completely. Observer Thelquan's crystalline body pulsed with colors of distress. They did it. The humans actually did it. They killed an entire species. High Speaker Orn Lattis looked at Captain Han Taman. The human ambassador stood calmly, showing no emotion. Captain Taman, your species has just committed genocide on a galactic scale. What do you have to say? Taman met his eyes. We did what was necessary. The Vrelak could not be negotiated with. They could not be contained. They would have continued consuming world after world. We stopped them, permanently. At what cost? Counselor Vexthar asked. You sacrificed thousands of your own people. You destroyed an entire species. You violated every principle of civilized warfare. We survived, Taman said simply. That is the only principle that matters when your species faces extinction. Lieutenant Kim Dane stood next to him. She spoke quietly. You had 3 weeks to help us. You chose committees and procedures. While you debated, the Vrelak killed our people. We stopped asking for permission. We stopped waiting for approval. We took action. Ambassador Kreenal looked at both of them. And what happens next time? When another species threatens humanity, will you exterminate them too? Taman did not hesitate. If necessary, yes. We learned something important from this war. The galaxy will not protect us. We can only protect ourselves, and we're very good at that. The council chamber fell silent. Every species present understood what they had just witnessed. Humanity had revealed itself, not as peaceful explorers, not as diplomatic traders, but as apex predators who would do anything to survive. Absolutely anything. And that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy, because civilized species could be negotiated with. They could be reasoned with. They had limits on what they would do. But humans had just proven they had no such limits. When threatened, they would burn down the entire galaxy to protect their families. High Speaker Orn Lattis spoke slowly. The Council will need time to discuss humanity's actions. We will convene in 1 week to determine appropriate responses. Taman nodded, but his eyes were cold, empty. Protocol Apex was still active in him. In all humans across the galaxy,